and welcome to Good News Rhode Island, the show about Rhode Island and the people and places and events that make Rhode Island a great place to live, because each of those people builds our communities. Today we're going to talk about something that's omnipresent in Rhode Island, and that's the National Guard. We have a flag behind us because we're very proud of what these people do for us. I think there's some misunderstanding as well, and so hopefully today you'll find out what the National Guard does, what those who work with the National Guard do, and the way that we take care of those who are veterans or those who are in the military now, and how we take care of families. So we want to thank you all for being here and for the services you provide for those who defend our country. So thank you. I don't think there's any greater calling, in my personal opinion, besides teaching, I have to say. So I'm going to start with you, Chaplain Tim Bourquin. You are here as the full-time chaplain, and you are the one who speaks for the National Guard. And I just want to talk to you just a second. There's a lot going on right now across the country, and often the National Guard is called in. And I think in Rhode Island, you've been called in, I know, for floods. I heard there were other incidences, and maybe you could talk about something of the mission of the National Guard.
Sure. The mission of the National Guard is complex and interesting, and is why I joined the National Guard. I had thought about going active military, maybe reserves, but the focus of the National Guard being the national defense, but also state-specific. So we work in our community, and when there's an emergency, whether Hurricane Irene or Superstorm Sandy, the Blizzard Nemo, all of these incidents, we were called up and we were supporting our local community to restore and to get our roads back and running and power back on. And then also the overseas component as well. When we're called upon to defend our nation, we're also prepared to do that as well.
So sometimes you're sent to Afghanistan,
That's
I understand.
Right. In fact, in the past 13 years of war, for a while the National Guard in Rhode Island was the second most deployed state per capita. So we had a rotation of service members going constantly, and it takes a toll. We have been working hard to defend our nation, and it definitely takes a toll as service members try to reintegrate back into their civilian lives, putting all of that on hold, their families, their civilian jobs, going to defend their nations, and then coming back home. It's a tough job, but that's why we have a lot of resources available to help them in that transition. So
people have other jobs, but
right.
They have behind the scenes volunteered to be part of the National Guard. Once they go into the National Guard and are deployed, then they are paid by the government, and they're considered to be veterans when they leave that service. Is that right?
That's right.
And do you sign up for a certain period of time?
Typically, an enlisted soldier coming in will sign up for 6 years is oftentimes a commitment that they'll make. And then you can re-up after that if you decide you want to stay in longer and make a career of it. In the Rhode Island National Guard, we've got the Army National Guard as well as the Air National Guard, two components that work together to fulfill the mission.
And you are also involved in rescue here as well as containment, or I don't know. Recently, there's been a lot of talk of the National Guard going out and guarding cities or guarding small businesses or keeping back crowds because of demonstrations.
That's right.
And so people maybe see the National Guard as being on the other side or being military. And one of the things that I think is true is that you're actually there to help the communities and to support free rights of speech.
Right. Yeah, we get called up for not just the disasters, but also when there's events like the Boston Marathon. After the tragedy, the following year, they had more security, and we sent 100 of our Rhode Islanders to help out with that mission as well. And the mission there was to ensure that everybody had a safe and fun time at that event. We also, in Rhode Island, we went down to after Hurricane Katrina, and we helped restore order there as well. So the National Guard is always non-lethal crowd control and monitoring. Our MPs will, for instance, maybe do traffic control when the power goes out during a hurricane and the streetlights aren't working. they can help with that. So maintaining the control so that the civil authorities can do their jobs.
I'm surprised you say non-lethal. So that is something that I didn't know either. So it's always non-lethal force. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. Yeah, you should never see a National Guardsman armed and on the streets of Rhode Island.
Okay.
That's the job for the police.
Okay, and you're the chaplain, so what do you do
Yes, ma'am.
specifically?
Well, specifically, my focus is to ensure the free exercise of religion for all of our service members. That's a right that they're fighting for, so we want to be sure to ensure that they have that right as well. But then also, I focus a lot on the reintegration back home after service. It takes a toll on relationships, and we all know that marriage is hard for anybody, but when you have these long distance relationships and a lot going on, the reintegration can be difficult. And one of the programs we have is Strong Bonds, where we host marriage retreats, teaching communication skills and how to talk and communicate better as a husband and wife. And we do the same for single soldiers as well, both in the Army and the Air National Guard.
Okay, I'll come back to you, but
Okay.
thank you for being here. Sergeant Major retired Chuck O'Connor, you're here as a transition assistance advisor, and the chaplain was just talking about the fact that when you come back, it's very difficult to get back into normal life or normalized civilian life. Maybe you could talk about that for a moment.
Sure. Not too long after 9/11, the National Guard felt a need to have someone at the state headquarters in every state that could assist their airmen and soldiers when they were returning from overseas and the families, because today you can't speak about our service members without speaking about the families. And but to be there to provide assistance and support to them in navigating all the different various programs and services that are available to you. To my right here is gives a little display as to what we do. You think about a corn maze, like in the fall, and you're going through these different corn mazes and you don't know which way to go and so forth. This is basically like a corn maze, and it just, we're here as the transition assistant advisors to assist you in navigating all the services and benefits that are available to you as for being a veteran and the families. So we advocate. A lot of times the service member is having an issue or whatever, maybe with a different program or having a hard time navigating through it. So we'll advocate and help work through those issues with them. Like I said, we have a representative in every state. Some states have 2 transition assistance advisors, depending upon the size of the state and the number of members that are in the Guard. And for instance, like Pennsylvania will have 2 transition assistance advisors. New York has 2. Texas, Florida,
And are
California.
you one of those transition advisors?
I'm the
So
transition.
you know how to negotiate all these different
Exactly.
These different services. So insurance, TRICARE, disability, personal records, VA benefits. It sounds as though it almost takes another degree to be able to
Difficult.
get through them all.
Right. Well, over the last 13 years, those services and benefits have really enlarged. There's a lot more today available than there was, after 9/11. I'd like to also note that as a transition assistant advisor for the National Guard, we're not only there to help National Guard members and their families. We provide assistance and support to all veterans, service members, military retirees, and their families, regardless of whether they served in the Army, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, the Navy, or I hope I didn't miss anybody, and whether they served in the Guard, Reserve, or active duty. So we're there to help everyone, not just National Guard families and members.
Okay, I have to ask, I received a phone call yesterday asking me to help fund the care of injured veterans. And I thought that is not what we should be doing. There should be no bake sale to support our injured veterans. We need to have a clear program. Was I misinformed? Did I not understand? Or
Well, I think the resources are out there for veterans. I don't know which organization was reaching out to you, but a lot of times, for whatever reason, unfortunately, a lot of times it's male pride, but for some reason, veterans who have resources available to them, they might not want that. They might want to stay off the radar, you might. So maybe other organizations will come around and rally, as we should, rally around not just veterans, but all of our homeless and those below the poverty line who need our help.
Okay. Jessica, you are here as a survivor with Survivor Services, and that means that should there be a death somewhere here or in Afghanistan or Iraq, wherever, that you are the one who connects the family with services.
Right.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about those.
Sure. So I can help any family, whether they pass overseas or off duty, perhaps if they're in the National Guard and they're off duty. A death is a big, thing that happens to a family and they need help. So sometimes family members need assistance gaining grief counseling or benefits during the burial or whatever it may be, so I can connect them to anything. And to also keep them connected to the military family for as long as they'd like to.
The military itself.
Yes.
So different members of the military reach out to different people as they are grieving and help them. What is done for children?
We have lots of different programs in Rhode Island, different agencies that I work with. We have a lot of scholarships and things like that to help families and children, after their parent or spouse, whatever it may be, passes. So there are things out there, and I just try to help families connect to whatever services that they need. And each family is different, so working with them forever if they need it is definitely what I try to do.
The kids probably would need some counseling initially, is that
Sure. Yes, we find it common, yes.
And so you provide counseling services for children?
I provide the referral for
That's
them.
what I mean, not you yourself.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Julie, you are a user in a way. You have enjoyed some of these services, and you have waited for your husband to come home, and you have talked to your children about military service and how important it is, I'm sure. So what do you see happening for the military as they come home and are now not deployed, but here trying to adjust?
Well, Juliana, I see a plethora. The table is full, so to speak. The amount of resources that are available to military members and their families is just about anything you can ask for. The gap in services is exactly what the chaplain mentioned. The horse needs to be thirsty, so to speak. Having them feel comfortable to go to that military component is the biggest challenge. There's not enough focus on it. There's a massive amount of stigma that goes against it, and that's where we find a challenge in just merely going to your first sergeant or whomever, your commander, and saying, I need help. The second component that I think is just about I think it's the recipe that we're missing. The community itself needs to look at what they do, because the military is designed to fight and win, and they're good at it. And it's not their forte to find a job for each soldier, sailor, marine, or airman that comes home. So the challenge is, but unfortunately, they're doing it anyway. There's programs like the Employer Support for the Guard and Reserve, Hero to Hired. There's exactly 24 doors for a service member to walk in the state of Rhode Island to find a job. So to have 24 different resources available just to find a job alone, it kind of brings you to realize that the community needs to ask themselves, wait a minute, what do I do, and how can I possibly have my service or my product that I produce help service members?
So are there jobs out there?
There aren't. And if there are, they're certainly not taking veterans' preferences. And that's something, again, that I look to the community and ask them to consider. We cannot, and I say we, even though I've never served a day in my life, we as the military, we need to realize that we're doing everything we can, and we need to bridge that community gap, that communication gap between the community and the military. Military components say, oh gosh, I don't understand civilian life. Civilian life says, gee, which is kind of why we're here today, I don't understand the military life. So it'd be so great to see that beautiful bridge built that the community can reach out to the military and say, this is what I do best. How does this help you? And vice versa. Which, again, the military does a phenomenal job at creating resources, having, you name it, it's covered. It's just the stigma of service members saying, I'm not comfortable asking for help or admitting that I need help. And then there's also the community that's great at what they do, and they need to open their doors and address a service member as a service member.
So if you own a business in Rhode Island, how do you find out where the unemployed veterans are, and how do you help them to match their skills to your needs?
Juliana, that's a phenomenal question. That's $1 million question. We, at the Family Assistance Center, there's a program known as Hero to Hired. Her name is Linda, and that's something that is a no-brainer. So she is the employment coordinator. Her sole existence on the military component, she helps all 4 branches, is to find your skill set, and she takes a three different approach to your job search. So if you're in this situation where you don't care what you do, you just want a job, or if you're good at this and you want to work in this zip code, or if you don't care what zip code but you want to do this particular job, she takes those 3 approaches and finds you your position. Her other hat that she wears is she makes sure that she goes out to the community and addresses business owners and explains to them the loyalty that is found within service members and their family members, and the value that they bring from boot camp up to the business world and any other world that they can possibly put food on the table.
If I could add, there's 2 other resources that you can follow, look into for employment. One is called Network Rhode Island, which is part of the Department of Labor, the State Department of Labor. There's a representative at each one of the outlets that will help veterans, and it's called Network Rhode Island. It's a program that's funded by the federal government through grant money. And the other program is Operation Stand Down. A lot of people equate Operation Stand Down as just for the homeless, and over the years they've been very proactive in obtaining a lot of other grant money to get involved in other things, as well as now employment. They'll help with resumes and finding employment, how to go to an interview, things of that nature. So Network Rhode Island and Operation Stand Down are 2 other outlets that they can reach out to help find employment.
And they're on the web, Network Rhode Island. If I had a job opportunity, I could look at Network Rhode Island and see.
You could go into the employment, like into the unemployment office or the employment office. I'm not exactly sure what they call it, but there's a representative. Like for instance, there's one on the office right on Reservoir Avenue, right on the line between Cranston and Providence. I think it's called actually 1 Reservoir Avenue. If you go in there, there's a few representatives from Network Rhode Island there. I believe there's also a representative in West Warwick, Pawtucket. And I think Westerly as well.
Okay. So I think there are huge issues with people coming back, aren't there? And recently there was, I would say, something symbolic. A woman had lost, I don't know, many, many pounds. And when her service member husband came home, he didn't recognize her at the airport. Yeah. And it was kind of all over Facebook. And the point is, though, that I would imagine a service member who's been in desert country, under fire, with all other military, with certain ways of reacting to issues that are not part of civilian life, without their children, with regulated meals that are come at a particular time, that are particular kind of food, all that kind of thing, almost everything, including the mattress that you sleep on, everything is changed. And I would think that it's a really difficult thing for people to come back into civilian life.
It is, and there's a phenomenon called reverse culture shock. And even just a civilian, a foreign exchange student who wants to go to Spain to study for a year, they adjust to their new culture, and they think when they come back to America, it's going to be smooth sailing. They're going back home. But they've gotten used to that new culture, the new way of doing things, and even coming home, there's bumps in the road, and it's not as easy as you would assume it is, and that's frustrating. And and it's difficult to overcome. So the soldiers have the same thing, reverse culture shock. Going from a drab, no-color environment, and all of a sudden going to Walmart is overwhelming with all its stimulation. So overcoming the reverse culture shock is step one, and then reintegrating with your family is another step. The employment, if your job is still available for you, do you want that same job is another issue. So, and then that's not even counting all the physical things that could happen to a soldier, like PTSD while they're deployed. So it is a big job, and the resources are there. But to have the community as well involved, especially going forward in the budget-constrained environment that we now operate in, the community really will need to step up and do some more.
Can any of you talk directly about what the community can do besides looking for jobs? I mean, is there a way that the community can actively say, hello, soldier, thank you for what you've done? First of all, whenever you see someone in uniform, please thank them.
That's a great first step. Yeah, and I've also had the opportunity to go to local churches and educate clergy on what does it mean to have a service member in your congregation coming back? What may be some of the unique challenges that they're facing? So looking for opportunities to get involved and not be afraid to go up to a service member and say thank you. Maybe an 18-year-old kid who just got back from boot camp, or maybe a 60-year-old gentleman who fought in Vietnam. But going up to those veterans and thanking them is a great step.
The society is complex, and to fall back into it is a much more complex thing. What happened with you when your husband came home?
I think the challenge is to change the minds of the community. So, for example, being over there, he was able to have a baby who was born with the digestive tract on the outside. So he provided security for that family to get all the way to the battalion surgeons and have that baby taken care of. So there's massive amounts of goodwill done over there. And you spend a year, or in his case 9 months over there, doing amazing things. And then you get home and your job isn't nearly as fulfilling, or your job just isn't reaching that level of excitement that you thought you were over there. So a lot of people think that, or I think the common misnomer is that going over to battle is, shells and guns and firefights, which that does happen. But the other component is you're making a difference. You're giving these families running water for the first time in their entire life. They're learning how to build their community. So for that, I think the community itself has the ability to give an hour. Whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, I don't know what give an hour of your time, whatever you do, and give an hour to a service member or a military family and see what that can feel like and what that can do for them. It's just, to me, I think that's the key to getting our veterans the welcome home and the buildable life that they deserve.
Is there an agency that connects community members with veterans?
I don't think that there needs to be a specific agency, though there are. I think you as a community member can simply ask the question are you a veteran? Have you ever served? Be it on your menu, or when you first walk in and that doctor is having you fill out the paperwork. I think it's so important to ask the question. Yes, there are community services that can link you to military families, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. You can ask the question, and you can ask yourself, what can you do for a military family?
As we go forward, the world gets more complex, and therefore people are in more and more complex situations, particularly where the culture is just so radically different from what, say, an 18-year-old has grown up with. Mm-hmm. What are the issues when kids are over there that they're adjusting to?
They will see things for the first time, especially in a state like Rhode Island, very small and often limited scope to local issues. And then for the first time you go overseas and your eyes are opened up to a whole new world. And they see all kinds of different things. And that's actually a great place for a chaplain. Chaplains are deployed as well. And that's a great place for a chaplain to help soldiers put things in perspective and try to come with a new way of reconciling what they're seeing with what they believe.
Are there support groups that just happen because XYZ people know each other from deployment, and then they come back, and maybe one of them has been killed and come back, and do the families support other families? Are there natural support groups that happen?
Yes, absolutely. One in particular is called the Vet Center, and there are a couple locations in Rhode Island, and I use them quite often to help connect families to other veterans and also other families to other families. And I have started a few, some specific to maybe how their soldier passed. Suicide is really an unfortunate means of death lately, and I've been really connecting families to each other, and they find the strength being around people that have similar experiences. So there are definitely support groups out there, and we can help anybody find them.
It's almost the holidays as we record this, although it will be seen after the holidays. But all of the holidays are difficult in some ways, but they're also ways where people in the community reach out to the armed services maybe more than other times. Maybe you could list some ways that people could impact holidays for the soldiers. I don't know if anybody can do that, or
I think the Family Assistance Center located at 541 Airport Road in Warwick, it's an armory right next to the airport. They host a enormous Christmas party, and Hasbro Corporation does an outstanding job at providing literally thousands of toys completely at no cost to service members, so that they can put some more things under the tree, so to speak. I think they need volunteers constantly, whether it's a person who can call while a family is deployed. They can call and just do a wellness check. They're not there to just do anything other than say, hey, how's it going? And they'll say, hey, you know what? My husband usually fixes the dishwasher, and while I have you on the phone, is there a way that you could send someone? And we work with that. So I think that the key to how to brighten the holidays would be to volunteer your time.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. Thank you for serving. If you've served, thank you for serving in other ways if you haven't been deployed. But thank you so much for being here. This is the Rhode Island National Guard and the services that are provided to members of the veterans who have come home, or those families who are still here waiting for their soldier to come home. Thank you for watching. This is Good News Rhode Island. And I'm sure you're helping to make good news by volunteering or by doing other things, making good news around your corner. You're helping to make it. Thank you.